Good evening, YouTube, and welcome back once again to the EdWord. I am your host, Ghostface, as I will be hosting this video this evening where I will be discussing my episode review and recap of episode 6 of season 1 of Scream, titled Betrayed. Oh, the drama! Now, before I begin, as Eddie always does, and he makes me do it too, I think it's fucking stupid, but as Eddie requests, please do not watch or continue listening to this video if you are not caught up on the most recent episode of Scream, or if you're behind a few episodes. Do not keep watching or listening to it, as I will be going into massive, gory spoilers. That being said, you have been warned. This episode got off to an interesting start. We see Will and Emma, who have both, Will, Kiernan and Emma wake up in the field where they have just finished. That's right, they got it on. They've just finished that, and Emma's like, oh, I'm feeling brave now, and I'm full of adrenaline and bodily fluids, and I feel like I need to confront my fears. And Kiernan is like, alright, baby, let's do this. Let's go. Come on, hop in my truck. We'll go to the killer's house. You'll be safe, I promise. And then that whole thing where the killer stabs her, I'm like, ooh, he's not gonna, she doesn't die here, but she's gonna be injured, and he'll let her go for some fucked up reason. But it turns out, spoiler alert, it's a dream, because when the killer takes off the mask, it's her. So what does that say? You know, why is she having this bizarre dream that she is the killer? And there's that awkward situation where she runs into her mom kissing the sheriff goodbye. And it's obvious that Emma had snuck back home the night before, and her mom didn't notice because she and the sheriff were too busy discussing business matters with each other. But they're like, oh, I'm happy for you. Are you happy? I'm happy. Oh, I love you so much, Mom. Yeah, whatever. But this episode, what Eddie and I noticed was about a lot of people using and manipulating each other. I mean, this is even going back to the previous episode where Kiernan and Emma start making out and eventually have sex out there in the field. You know, that son of a bitch is toying with her emotions. You know, Eddie and I were talking about this. You know, we both realized he knows that she's emotionally vulnerable and in a really fragile state right now because of everything going on with her and how she's broken up with her boyfriend, and she feels totally exposed and betrayed, and she doesn't know who her friends are and what's the truth and what isn't. And so, of course, that son of a bitch is going to capitalize on it by, you know, telling her, hey, I'll show you how to protect yourself and shoot off my dad's gun. I'll protect you, I'll be safe. Check out my abs. That's pretty much what he's saying to her. And he takes advantage of this, and of course, they end up sleeping together. Now, whether or not these were his intentions, we don't know yet. But it is something worth noting that Kiernan here could have very well been playing with her emotions this whole time just to get her in the sack. Maybe he's not the killer. Maybe he's just a horny young guy who just wants to get some Who knows? But it is something to keep in the back of your mind. So there was that, and now it seems as if the Will doesn't really strike me as the violent type, because in the last episode where he protested the mayor's treatment by Jake, where he's like, you told me no one was gonna get hurt and everything would be okay, that's it, I'm done. You know, I don't think he's really the violent or criminal type, so to speak, because it seems like he really wants to do right by Emma and a lot of other people, but especially Emma. So he agrees to see this reporter, Piper Shaw, where she's like, you give me information on Nina and you come on my podcast and basically do a live redemption story, and that might win Emma back. But that gives Will an idea where he's like, you help me and I'll give you the biggest story you've ever heard in your life. It makes you wonder, what is he up to? And sure enough, the footage with the mayor dragging the body around is gone, along with the money that Jake had in his workout bag. He confronts Will about it. Will feigns ignorance. And so we wonder, did someone take it? Was it really Will? Or was it someone else? We don't know yet. And this whole time, somebody's been fingered for murder. Who is it? Dun dun dun! Audrey Jensen. DNA confirms that it's her DNA the particles that were found inside the Brandon James surgical mask at the hospital. And so the bitchy state police detective Brock brings Audrey in for questioning. But the sheriff comes to her aid when he presents himself as a guardian to her since her dad isn't there yet, and how it's illegal to question a minor without the permission or the presence of a guardian. But the detective is pressing Audrey for answers as to what exactly happened the night of Nina's murder, and more specifically, where she was. And you can see that Audrey's feeling like she's in a tight corner here, because they confront her with the evidence that there's DNA particles, her DNA, found inside the killer's mask. And she swears that she has never touched it or worn it in her life, and she has no idea how her DNA could have gotten there. And now Emma and Noah, who witnessed her being escorted out of class in Mr. Branson's class, are like, what the fuck? What's going on with our friend? Do they think she did it? Do they think Audrey's the murderer? What about Mr. Branson? And Mr. Branson, as it turns out, is not even his real name, as Noah reveals to Audrey earlier in the episode as they're walking around school, revealing that Seth Branson didn't exist until he appeared in Lakewood, California. So whoever the teacher is, it's not his real name, he's someone else, which means he too might have something to hide. A lot of these characters, in fact, most of these characters on this show have something to hide. A dark, troubled past or dark secrets. That's the theme of the show, is secrets. Everybody's got secrets. Whether or not they're related to the murders is another thing, because it depends on different character backstories and motivations. But everybody's got secrets. Everybody. And as they're discussing the possibility of Branson's involvement, the cops show up and take Audrey out of class to question her downtown. And so Emma and Noah try to figure out what the hell is going on. And while the detective is discussing something with the sheriff outside of the interrogation room, Audrey quickly goes to her phone, calls Emma, and when she does call Emma, on Emma's end it says, unknown caller, which usually comes up whenever the killer calls to taunt Emma. But it's Audrey. Now, true, Audrey might have intentionally placed it as an unknown caller, so the phone call couldn't be directly traced back to Emma or her. Although it does make you wonder, is Audrey a part of this somehow? Is she part of this sick little game between the killer and Emma? And if she's not, then why did her ID come up as unknown caller on Emma's phone? And she tells Emma, look, I need a huge favor. Go to my house, destroy a SIM card from September 30th, which was the night of Nina's murder. And so Audrey and Noah are like, okay, yeah, we'll go destroy it. Because the cop in the earlier scene tells Audrey, we have enough for a search warrant to enter your house now, and we're going to look for that SIM card of the night of Nina's murder, because there's something that we need to see, or you might be hiding something, she tells to Audrey. Noah and Emma break into Audrey's house. Nobody's there because Audrey, her dad, and the cops are still at the police station. They search Audrey's room. They find the SIM card dated September 30th, right as the police show up to begin their search. And fortunately, Noah and Emma get away scot-free before the detective can see them. And so with that happening, now they go back to the comic book store and they watch the footage, which is basically Audrey, who has also pleaded with them not to watch the SIM card once they have it, because she said, get it from my house and destroy it. Please don't watch it. But of course, both of them are filled with such curiosity. What happens? They play it, and what is it? An angry rant, a tirade by Audrey, who's talking to Rachel, her dead girlfriend, who's filming her with the camera. And Audrey is basically blasting Nina and vowing vengeance to kill her for all of the shit and the harm that Nina has put her through all her life. And Rachel's trying to calm her down and talk her out of it. And then the footage ends. And now both Emma and Noah are like, whoa, what the hell? What's going on with our friend here? What, is she the killer? Did she really do it? What can we do to help her, or should we believe her? Later, meanwhile, at the gym, Jake confronts Will while he's working out, doing his weightlifting thing or whatever. He's like, did you take the money? Did you take the footage? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about, bro. He's like, if you did, bro, they're gonna find, if you try to use that against me, they're gonna find pieces of you in the ditch. But sure enough, he just storms off while Will looks so sure of himself. And later, of course, he's got his workout bag. He meets up with Piper, and he's like, and that's when he tells her about his offer, and she agrees, and so they go off together somewhere. And we don't know what exactly kind of story he's promised her, but we'll see. And so now we go back to the police station where Emma has now been brought in by the police detective, asking her if she knows anything about Audrey's presence and status on the night of Mina's murder, and how Audrey called Emma when she was being held in the interrogation room. And Emma comes up with a lie saying, "Oh, she was calling me to ask me to tell her mom that everything was okay because her mom's out of state, she has cancer, blah, blah, blah," basically lying to cover for Audrey. And the police detective doesn't quite believe her, but she lets her go anyway. So later that evening, Emma and her mom decide to go out for a little bit because her mom has decided that, the truth should be told regarding Audrey's situation. And she encourages Emma to tell the truth about Audrey. If she really believes Audrey is innocent, she needs to say so. And she gives an example about how she never came to the defense of poor Brandon James, who, of course, did kill all those people, but it was something in him that made him snap because of Emma's dad, Daisy's boyfriend. It was all his fault because he and his buddies attacked Brandon when he approached Daisy at the high school dance. And later he went on that killing spree, killed those people, and was gunned down by the cops at the lake later. And, of course, Daisy had nothing to do with that because she wrote a note to him saying, "Meet me at the lake," because she wanted to talk to, come to his defense. But the cops were waiting and gunned him down while Daisy watched helplessly. But anyway, the point of the story is that Daisy tells Emma, "You have to remember," you say, "if you believe your friend is innocent, tell the truth now, because if you don't, you may regret it for the rest of your life." So she and Emma go back to the police station where Emma reveals to the police detective, Brock, that Audrey was basically covering up for Emma because Emma was with her that night after they uploaded the video of Audrey and Rachel making out, and Audrey was basically protecting Emma from an embarrassing truth. But fortunately, her testimony exonerates Audrey, and they're both let go scot-free, and they both, hug and embrace and saying, "Thanks for coming through for me. Oh, you too, bestie. Love you." But meanwhile, the mayor has returned to the warehouse where Jake and Will had previously blackmailed him, and Will reveals himself to be there as the mayor recognizes him, and Will has brought with the money and the footage that he stole from Jake, saying that this was all the money the mayor had given them up until that point, and this was the last existing footage of the video of the mayor dragging a body through his home, presumably his wife, but it may not be his wife. It could be someone else for all we know. But for now, it looks like it's most definitely his dead wife. But he assures him it's the only piece of remaining footage left, and he gives him the rest of the money. And the mayor has a gun behind his back, and he's ready to pull it out, possibly to kill Will to keep him silent permanently. But then when Will makes a case how he's like, "I give you my word. It's the only footage left out there, and quite frankly, my word is all I have left nowadays, and I'm trying to do right." So Will's trying to redeem himself, not only to make himself feel better, but also in an attempt to win Emma back, most likely. And the mayor gives him warning words like, "Don't say this to anyone ever again, and there's a killer out there." And the mayor departs with the money and the footage in hand. But sure enough, when the mayor's gone, Will says, "Did you get all that?" And who was hiding behind the post with a recording device? Piper. And of course, she's thrilled to have a goldmine story such as this. And as they're about to leave, they realize they've been locked in the warehouse. And as they're looking for a way out, lo and behold, who's waiting for them? The killer. And when he attacks, he pushes Piper so hard she hits the back of her head on a piece of loose concrete, temporarily knocking her out, and then the killer pulls out his knife and stabs Will right in the chest, dangerously close to the heart. He doesn't quite kill him, but he does injure him quite badly. And as well as laying there helpless, bleeding with this huge gaping wound in his chest, the killer grabs him by the feet and drags him off into the darkness while Will pleads for help from an unconscious Piper. And that's how it ends. So, who is the killer? Well, it seems unlikely that it's Will, because he doesn't seem to be the violent or murderous type. He seems to be a pretty decent guy who's made some serious mistakes, but you can tell by his actions and his words that he does have a conscience, which is something that's completely baffling to me, because I do not have a conscience, of course. I don't even know what the word conscience means, but apparently Will has one, as Eddie explained it to me. So Will is most likely not in on this killer spree. He may very well be a victim. He may be guilty of some other things, but he's no killer. That's how Eddie and I feel. Now, who's the killer who is in the warehouse who stabbed Will? Well, that was possibly Jake, or Mr. Branson, the English teacher, or maybe it was the new guy at school, Kiernan, who was in the opening scene of this episode. Even though it was in a dream, it was still a prelude to what happened in the last episode where he and Emma spent the night in the field together. Who knows? It's hard to say, but it just keeps getting more and more interesting. And I'm really enjoying it. Eddie and I are both really enjoying it so far. And this was an appropriately titled episode called Betrayed, because at first Emma feels she's betrayed by Audrey. But then, of course, when they prove later it wasn't Audrey and that she was in the clear all along, they come together to mend their relationship. And then Betrayed in the title can also refer to Jake and Will's relationship, how their blackmail scheme partnership basically died, and how both of them resented and hated the other. So basically they were betraying each other, essentially. So this was a good episode. I really liked it, and I'm curious to see as to whether or not we will see young Mr. Will alive ever again. And what's with Branson's story? The English teacher who suddenly didn't exist until he arrived to Lakewood, California? What could be going on with him? Everybody's got secrets, and everybody's got something to hide, and that's what makes this show so interesting, as we learn a little bit more about it episode by episode. So that's why Eddie and I are going to keep tuning in and watching, and that's why you should too. Well, guys, thanks for watching and tuning into this episode of the EdWord. I hope you found this most recent episode of Scream as enjoyable as Eddie and I did. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, comment down below. Leave your thoughts and opinions down below. Let's be respectful and civil of one another, of course. What did you like about this episode? Do you know who the killer is? Who do you think is the killer, and why? Does this have anything to do with Brandon James, or is it all one big coincidence? Shout out down below. Eddie and I would love to hear from you. Thanks again for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe, and have a pleasant evening. And of course, until next time, what's your favorite scary movie?